What's up, everybody? It's the Variety Film Brothers. I'm Andrew.
I'm Thomas.
Welcome to the second episode of Variety Discussion.
And today we're going to talk about Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones.
Alright. So, first off, do you think it's better than Phantom Menace?
I think it's way better than Phantom Menace.
I have to agree. Apparently that's a pretty hot take nowadays. A lot of people actually think Phantom Menace is better than Attack of the Clones. I have to disagree on just about every level. They do have a lot of the same problems. Though there's a lot of, monotone delivery, a lot of scenes that just don't really feel very urgent. But overall, I think there's a lot more good in this movie than there is bad. Whereas Phantom Menace, I felt like it was kind of half and half.
Yeah.
Like I said, I would give Phantom Menace, if I were rating it on Rotten Tomatoes, I'd give it a 65. This movie, I'd give probably a 78 or a 79. Like a high C. Good beverage, by the way.
I'll probably give it like an 84 and 85.
Oh, really? That's pretty generous. So it's certainly an improvement. We can both agree that it was an improvement from the Phantom Menace. Well, this one does have a 65 on Rotten Tomatoes, which is 10 higher than Phantom Menace. So I'm happy about that. But I do think 65 is a little bit too low. Yeah. For sure. All right, so this time we took some notes while watching the movie, even though I've probably seen this movie like 30 times. I love this stupid movie. What about you?
Clearly, as you can see on your shirt.
I didn't buy this just for today. I had this anyway. That's how much I like this dumb movie. So what about you? How many times do you think you've seen this?
Probably, sadly, only 4 times.
Only about 4 times?
Probably.
That sounds about right. And that's why we do variety discussion instead of variety reaction for the Star Wars movies. Is because we've both seen these so many times that we can't really have a first impression on it anymore. That's why I think it's better to do it in this, like, sort of review style. Yeah. But it's more of a conversation than anything. All right, so we both took some notes. What is the first thing you have on your notes?
The first thing I have, I think there was more action in this movie than there was in The Phantom Menace.
For sure. Or ObiWan going on this little, like, mystery chase to, find Jango Fett. I think it's really interesting. The first thing I wrote down was the scenes between Anakin and Padme. There's one thing I actually really like from those scenes, and it's after Anakin kisses Padme, and
the face he made, right? It was the face.
Padme's like, "No, we shouldn't be doing this," and he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry." And then he looks off and he's like, "Wait a minute, did I just talk about sand?"
And how I just didn't like it.
Did I just rub her back without any sort of consent? It's like, because if Anakin was self-aware about how weird he was, this movie, I'd be fine with all of those weird scenes. If after the conversation, every time he was just like, "Oh my god, did I really actually say that?
What have I done?"
Yeah. Like, this isn't my favorite Star Wars movie by any means, as much as I love it, but it does have some of my favorite things in it. This movie does. Geonosis is my favorite Star Wars planet. It would have been really easy to just make it another Tatooine. It would have been really easy to just make it another really generic, like, sand planet. But this one, it's got, like, its own unique architecture, and it's got, like, more, like, texture in it. It's got more rocks and things like that. And speaking of Geonosis, a big improvement of this movie over the last one is the Battle of Geonosis. I think that just kicks the shit out of the Battle of Naboo. Like, what do you think?
That was really good. I thought it was really cool. And also, whenever they were shooting each other, I also like the cloud, like the dust cloud battle.
When the ship crashes and they're still shooting at each other.
I thought that shot was really good.
There were a lot of good shots in this movie, and there are a lot of people who just say every shot in this movie looks bad. But I have to fundamentally disagree. Even if the CG has aged, I think there's still a lot of shots that are composed really well. See, I'm a huge fan of the Clone Wars show. We still haven't decided if Thomas is going to react to that or not. But the Battle of Geonosis at the end of this movie is the first battle of the Clone Wars. So I think that makes me love both this movie and the Clone Wars even more. But even if it wasn't part of the Clone Wars, this would still be my favorite ground battle of the whole saga, just because of how cool it is. Like, you've never seen the Clone Wars, and that was still awesome. Like, you still really enjoyed that whole battle.
Also, the Lego Star Wars level.
Yes,
was really good.
Every Lego Star Wars level on Geonosis was just fun as hell to play. So I think that might make me a little bit biased. for this movie, but really, I mean, I've been watching this movie ever since I was like 3 years old, so I'm biased anyway. But there's a lot to appreciate about it still. Like a lot of people I've seen online, they'll write comments and be like, "Man, I remember when I was 15 years old and I watched Attack of the Clones for the first time since I was a kid. I realized how shit it was. Everyone was right." And I'm like it's not all perfect, but like it's so far away from shit. Like there's a lot to really love here.
Mm-hmm. Like even the CGI clones weren't even that bad.
Oh yeah, like they didn't have a whole lot to work with back in 2002. Mm-hmm. But I think with what they had to work with, and they spent a lot of time on it too.
I think they made it look really good.
They really did. There are some shots where it actually looks real.
Mm-hmm.
So like even to me now, knowing that it's CGI, there were a couple shots where they actually looked real to me. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm stupid, but but I don't know. What's something else you've got written down on your list?
I have a couple where Anakin gets friend zoned.
Oh yeah. Do you think this movie being memed on makes it better, or does it make it worse? Because on one hand, it's making it fun in areas where it wasn't really fun before, but on another, it's making fun of it.
Joke.
Right. It's not really laughing with it. It's more so laughing at it, like with the sand scenes.
I think it makes it better because of how many like good memes there are about it. And I think it just makes it better.
I mean, I think
sand meme.
It definitely
I don't like sand.
See, this is the only movie I think where I like it both ironically and unironically. Mm-hmm. Like I like this movie as a joke, but I also fully love it. Like I think it's so fun to laugh at it, but then another scene will have me like, holy shit, that's really cool. Mm-hmm. So it's weird. Like I can't think of another movie like that.
Sequels, no.
No, I only have pure contempt for the sequels.
Oh,
and the sequels do not make me laugh. The sequels do not make me
later on. The thing
me happy.
Is going to be red and not green. We'll see
no,
it later.
No, green's for the movies we like. Another thing that makes this movie so good, in my opinion, is the soundtrack. Like Across the Stars is gorgeous. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean that's easily the standout of this movie is Across the Stars because like the scene where Anakin and Padme kiss for the first time, like I'm watching it, you know, like we said earlier, kind of as a joke. I'm kind of laughing at it, but then when that song starts playing, I'm like, oh my god, that's like this is kind of good. This is kind of nice.
I have the song on my Spotify.
Yeah,
and it's really good. I just don't like it how they used it so many times. Oh yeah, no,
they used it like 10 times in this movie. Some like a few of those times are obviously good uses for it. Like I think when they're being drug out into the arena, which is a fabulous looking model by the way, Across the Stars playing, and you just look out and see it all. It's so good.
I think the one scene where it didn't like it really didn't have to use it was whenever the droid making scene. Mm-hmm. I think that was kind of weird.
The droid factory itself though looks really cool. A lot of people specifically say that setting looks bad and that's one of the ones that's aged the most. I have to disagree. I think there are 2 settings in this movie that have aged, in my opinion. And one of them is some of the shots that we see in the Jedi Temple. I think some of those don't look that great. And the inside of the Camino facility. Like where it's really bright, you know? I think some of that doesn't look too good. Mm-hmm. But Camino itself, I think is so cool. For one, I love the rain. It's raining right now. So naturally I'm going to like Camino as it is. But the design for the facilities themselves look really cool. Mm-hmm. The soundtrack for Camino is really cool. And I just love the clones, man. Like, so seeing them, you know, like it's such a new thing for Star Wars, you know, like it's such an original thing. Because, you know, for the sequels, they're ripping off the originals left and right. But for this, it's so unique. And, you know, like getting to see the clone troopers train and seeing them like at different ages. Like you see one squad as kids and one squad as like adults. And that's really cool. I think it's just a really good like piece of Star Wars lore. You know, like I can't imagine Star Wars without the clone troopers. Like no one could do that now. Especially after they got their own show. What else do you have written down? Thomas wrote down a whole page, front and back. I got maybe a paragraph's worth. I also wrote it with a green pen, so that wasn't a good decision. But what else do you have written down, since you clearly took a lot more from this viewing than I did?
I like it how ObiWan went through the window with no hesitation to get the droid.
Yes.
Like, dang, dude.
A lot of people complain about Obi-Wan jumping out the window, and they're like, Obi-Wan would never do that. I know him very well.
He's really committed.
He's never jumped out a single window. And I think, like, why wouldn't he? If you're fit enough to jump out a window, why wouldn't you jump out a window? But, speaking of Obi-Wan, what do you think about the duel with him and Dooku, as well as Anakin and Yoda at the end of the movie? Think it stacks up to the one at the end of episode 1?
No.
I have to agree. I don't think this duel is as good. I think I like that there's more parts to it. You know, like Anakin, you know, gets sidelined immediately, which I think is about in line for his character. And it actually, like, a lot of people dislike Anakin in this movie, and I understand that. But, like, you know, it's not like Anakin's, you know, attitude always works out the best for him. You know, like if Anakin had just rushed in there and won the fight immediately, like Rey did in, you know, The Force Awakens, practically, then I would have a problem with it. But, you know, he gets his ass handed to him immediately.
It's destroyed.
You know, so we have that, and then Obi-Wan versus Dooku for a few minutes, which I think is probably the best part of the fight. And then we have, you know, and that part's over after he gets, like, singed a couple times. And like I said, I think it would have been really cool to see those scars again in Obi-Wan Kenobi or in episode 3 at some point. I just like consistency like that. You know, the biggest controversy of that fight, Yoda versus Dooku, do you think it works?
It's I just don't like how he's jumping and spinning all the time. Like, I wish there was more, like, force, because I don't think Yoda is more of a lightsaber dueler. I think he's more of a force wielder than he is an actual lightsaber dealer, I guess. Like, I just wish he used the force more. I
mean, they had that, like, little force standoff at the beginning, where they're, like, forcing stuff, like, at each other, you know? But I agree, they probably could have done more creative stuff than that. My only problem with the Yoda versus Dooku section of it is just how many flips he does. You have Yoda on times 10 speed, you know, just doing 5 flips a second, and you just don't really know where to look. And I think that's the beauty of the choreography at the end of episode 1 in Duel of the Fates, is that it's really easy to focus on what you're supposed to be focusing on. But what do you think is better, that or the standoff between Jango Fett and Obi-Wan?
The fight between Obi-Wan and Count Dooku, and the fight between Obi-Wan and
Jango Fett.
I think Obi-Wan and Jango Fett.
Really?
I think so.
So you think that's just the best, like, piece of action from this whole movie?
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, I can't really blame you. Like, Jango Fett has one of the coolest sets of armor in the whole Star Wars saga to me. And you found a new appreciation for that, too.
Yeah, I did.
This time around. Like, I've always thought Jango Fett was cool as hell.
You know, like, whenever I was younger and watching this movie, I was like, oh, it's someone wearing a suit.
Yeah, just like Boba Fett, but, like, different colors.
Yeah, I was like, oh, and then now I look at it, I'm like, oh, it actually looks really cool.
It's just like, because obviously it is, you know, the Boba Fett suit, or what is going to be Boba Fett's suit, but with a different set of colors. But I love how sleek it is.
Yeah.
In comparison to Boba, because Boba looks like dirty and like, you know, scratched up and stuff, whereas this looks really sleek. Yeah, all of the practical elements of this movie look so good. Like Jango Fett's suit, you know, when there's not CG, you know, scenes of it, it looks fantastic. The models in this movie, you see Obi-Wan's ship in this movie, we get the speeders in this movie that are all full size. I think they look fantastic.
I really like this ship in the in the Rainy Planet. I really do like it.
I don't know, it feels real, but also, like, obviously it can never be real at the same time.
And Shame, but it never happened.
Right, I think that's like the draw to Star Wars, or with Star Wars, is when it looks real. Like, it looks like it could actually be right in front of you, but at the same time,
it's not.
It wouldn't make any sense, because, like, it's just nothing like we have in this world.
Which is really sad.
Really sad. We'll get there one day.
We will get... Probably gonna be dead before we
get there. Yeah, for sure. Alright, what else do you have written down?
The battle with the shape-shifting person.
The scenes with the shapeshifter were really underwhelming, and I think that's something that a lot of people have pointed out recently, is that if you have the power to change into anything you want, and you have the perfect opportunity to do that, and, you know, to get the jump on him or to just get the hell out of there, which is really what she was trying to do in the first place, I think.
And then she like sneaked up against ObiWan and then got her hand chopped off.
Yeah.
So
it's all worth it though for the Deathstix scene. Best scene in the whole movie.
Yeah.
10 out of 10. I don't think there's more humor in this one than the last one, but there's more in this one that works.
Yeah, instead of just being clumsy Jar Jar
right.
sticking his hand.
Right, exactly. Like there's actually some wit to this one. Like, you know, when like the Deathstix scene.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, when they're all chained up and Anakin's like, Anakin's like, we decided to come and rescue you, and Obi-Wan just looks back at him and says, good job. You know, like it's a lot of little things like that. Exactly. Like, you know, and it just feels more, you know, it's actually back up to Star Wars level humor. It's not like Jar Jar getting farted on. Mm-hmm. You know, so that was a big improvement to me.
So you said everything you said on your...
Yeah, I pretty much said all of this. Okay. Oh, I would cut out, though, the scenes of R2-D2 and C-3PO in the droid factory.
Yeah.
Where they switch to the CG model of C-3PO and he's getting, like, thrown around.
Awesome.
And they bring him into the battle and stuff. Mm-hmm. I could have done without all that, and that's, like, 5 minutes, probably, that you could just cut right out of this movie, and it doesn't even make a single difference.
I also don't like how C-3PO had basic grip strength or like really
right, exactly. Like
you would think that he has nothing.
Like no, like you trying to tell me C-3PO works out? Not a chance.
It doesn't really show it here in this movie, but it does in the next one. How Anakin spends more and more time with Palpatine.
Yeah,
to like really trick his mind into thinking
right.
like, hey, the Jedi's really dumb and that kind of stuff.
Because we talked about how Anakin, one of his main character flaws is how he can never blame himself when he does something wrong, and that's probably mostly because Palpatine is telling him he's perfect all the time, you know? Like, Obi-Wan's trying to keep him humble, and Palpatine's like, you're already the best, kid. You don't even really need a mask.
Okay, so this is a really funny scene, but it's a blooper scene. It's the hot soup one. I wish they kept that in.
They honestly could have... Yeah, they honestly could have kept that scene in, that part in the scene, and I think that would have made it better. Mm-hmm. All right, anything else? Is there anything that else that you like really wanted to say?
That Count Dooku told Obi-Wan that there's a Sith Lord in the Senate thing, and Obi-Wan just didn't investigate it at all.
That's one of the big things that is kind of not really a plot hole, but it's like, why didn't they do more with this? Mm-hmm. Because naturally, like, I mean, Obi-Wan doesn't believe him, but I mean, I don't think it would have killed anyone to investigate everyone in the Senate and, you know, try to get some more answers. But, like, if you pull on that thread, I think the whole plot of this film will slowly fall apart.
He was really specific. He said Senate, and that's like a limited amount of people.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm.
So have someone investigate
everyone.
Like,
yeah, I'm not going to pretend that there aren't problems with this movie because, you know, they're left and right. Mm-hmm. But like I said earlier, I really think there's more good than bad about this movie, and that's why I was really excited to talk about this one, is because I think we both picked up on a lot of the good elements of this movie more than the bad, because like that movie didn't feel like a chore to get through at all for me. Phantom Menace kind of felt a little bit like a chore at times.
Yeah.
So with that said, we're going to end today on a positive note. We're just going to say one thing we really liked about the movie. I'm going to let you go first, even though I shouldn't let you because you're probably going to steal mine.
I don't think I am going to steal yours. I like how Anakin used 2 lightsabers whenever he was wielding 2 lightsabers with Count Dooku. I thought that was really cool.
See, even though that only lasts for like 10 seconds, I think that highlights a really, maybe not highlights, but is a good example of all the new things that the prequels are willing to do, both just with the lore of Star Wars and also with like the choreography and the execution, because, you know, they didn't do that in the originals, and I don't even think there's a scene where anybody dual wields in the sequels, and that would have been really easy to do.
I don't think there was any.
So even though it was, you know, just for a little bit, that's how you keep these movies fresh, is you do new things with the action scenes. And, you know, that's because you don't want to just see a 1v1, you know, every single time. But I think the prequels, just in every movie, even though this one has the weakest fight, lightsaber duel at the end, there's still great things about it.
Yeah, sure.
Let's see, what's
I didn't steal yours, right?
No, you didn't steal mine.
Okay.
Now, there's a lot of things I really like from this movie, This is probably the most nostalgic Star Wars movie to me. Mm-hmm. Either this one or 6. I think are the ones I rewatched the most. Back when I was a kid, this was my second favorite Star Wars movie. Like, my top 3 was Episode 3, Episode 2, and then Episode 6. And it's a lot different now. And we'll give you guys our movie rankings at the end of, I guess, our discussion for Episode 9, because that's the end of the Skywalker saga. So I think it'd be best to give our movie rankings then. Mm-hmm. But I think what I just love about this movie...
there's too many for him to choose.
There is. I think what I mainly love about this movie, though, is it really feels like it's getting the story of the saga started. Mm-hmm. Because the last movie, you know, we said it felt kind of disconnected. It felt almost like a one-and-done Star Wars movie, because it ends, you know, with the celebration scene, and it's all kind of wrapped up. Obviously, you know, things, you know, it starts some threads. It starts some seeds for the later movies. But this is the one where, like, I feel like the story really starts, you know. Mm-hmm. We've got the Clone Wars. We've got... really the start of Anakin's journey, because, you know, he's a Jedi now, and he's starting to come into his own. Mm-hmm. You know, like, obviously he was in Phantom Menace, but as a kid, and he really couldn't do a whole lot.
I really liked it how, whenever Anakin saw his mom die, that we saw, like, a sign of Darth Vader in him.
Yeah, like, that's, like, I feel like that scene when he slaughters the Tusken Raiders, it's kind of the birth of Darth Vader in a way, because sure, Anakin was always weird before that.
Yeah,
but, like,
yeah.
You know, it's a big step from being weird to, you know,
angry,
committing mass murder. And it's like, but obviously after that, I feel like there's still very much an Anakin in there that wouldn't do that. And I think that's almost where this really interesting sort of split personality disorder that's really highlighted well in ObiWan Kenobi, when Vader says, "You didn't kill Anakin, I did." All right, I think we've been through everything we really wanted to talk about, and at the end of the day, I really love this movie. You guys can hate it. That's totally fine. We all have our opinions, but I think there's always going to be more to love than hate about this one.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so I think that wraps up this episode of Variety Discussion.
Be sure to like and subscribe if you like the channel.
And we'll see you at the next one.